Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm Caleb. Welcome to Nursing You, the podcast where we redefine nursing in today's healthcare landscape. Join Julie and I as we step outside the box on an unconventional healing journey.
Together, we're diving deep into the heart of nursing, exploring the intricate relationships between caregivers and patients with sincerity and depth.
Our mission is to create an open and collaborative experience where learning is expansive and fun.
From the psychological impacts of nursing to the larger implications on the healthcare system, we're sparking conversations that lead to healing and innovation.
We have serious experience and we won't pull our punches, but we'll also weave in some humor along the way because we all know laughter is often the best medicine.
It is. And we won't shy away from any topic, taboo or not. From violence and drugs to family and love, we're tackling it all.
Our nursing knowledge is our base, but we will be bringing insights from philosophy, religion, science, and art to deepen our understanding of the human experience.
So whether you're a nurse, a healthcare professional, or just someone curious about the world of caregiving, this podcast is for you.
One last thing, a quick disclaimer before we dive in. While we're both registered nurses, nothing we discuss here should be taken as medical advice. Always consult with your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns you may have. The views expressed here are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our employers or licensing bodies.
So let's get started on this journey together. Welcome to Nursing You, where every conversation leads to a healthier world. So doing breathing exercises is one thing that helps calm our nervous system. And we do this before every podcast. And we were just talking about how, for me, when we do those, what kind of breathing do you call it?
I mean, I've done the Wim Hof Method, but it's
Wim Hof. Yeah. Yeah. So it's big, deep breaths in and out, almost trying to create a flow, a continuous flow, like in and out, and then in and out, kind of without like a momentum. And we did it 30 times. And then you breathe all your breath out on the last breath. And then you hold it for 15 seconds or 30 seconds, something like that?
Closer to a minute for the
a minute. Yeah.
Breathe out. But yeah, it's called breath. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
take a deep breath.
I picture myself falling, kind of like letting go and just like free floating, as that. I don't know what's happening in our bodies. We should research that. And then you end it with a big, deep breath in, and you hold that breath. And then for that, it's tingly and it's energizing, and it's like all of the cells in your body are just electric. For me, is what it feels like. What does it feel like for you?
Yeah, just you kind of get outside of your body, and for me, I get visuals. I can see stars and colors and waves, and I like to focus, because I mean, it's not really your eyesight that's seeing that, it's your mind, which is really strange.
Right.
So I enjoy exploring that space when I get there.
Yeah.
And I usually get there from the breath holds.
Yeah, for sure.
It's when I'm holding the breath. And sometimes I like increase my abdominal pressure and kind of build the pressure upwards towards my brain, towards my mind.
Yes.
And that enhances that as well. It's a whole world. Breathing is a whole world. There are so many techniques and ways to heal yourself through breathing. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. It is. I highly encourage, if you're having, if you suffer from anxiety, panic, not feeling grounded, and like you can't get outside and ground with your feet and think that way. So if you're just somewhere and you have to ground, because it's very grounding for me, it gets you out of what's going on in your current reality and puts you in this like liminal space that we rarely go, but it's so beautiful. Of course, I can't think of his name right now, but there's a gland in your brain that
Gland,
when you said that, what did you call it?
pineal gland.
Yeah, the pineal gland. That when you increase that abdominal pressure, it does push, the blood, which carries oxygen, up into that space, into that gland, and kind of helps to activate and energize and revitalize that gland. I can't remember off the top of my head what happens in that gland, but I think it's healing and
Dreams.
I don't-
It's
dreams. Yeah, so that's
like,
those
yeah,
visuals that you're seeing. I mean, it's literally an out of this world experience. Yeah.
I mean, you can also take this to your patients. When I returned to nursing after taking several years off, and exploring breathing in depth, I've gone to some pretty far extremes with it. Just exploring it and what works, how to, experiencing it. When I came back to nursing, working in PACU, these people are waking up disoriented. They don't know where they're at. They don't know what they're doing. And oftentimes, people will wake up in a panic.
Yeah.
Um, they're in pain. They haven't been able to organize their mind. And so I developed a technique. I call it the connected breathwork technique, where I,
Hmm.
when appropriate, place my hand on the chest, put their hand on top of my hand, and then I make them look me in the eye and
Hmm.
tell them to follow my breath. This works on patients that are just in pain. They can be, sometimes pain can be so disorienting, and this technique really works with people that are in pain because their pain is overriding their medications.
Yeah.
You find that, or I found that, when people reach a certain threshold of pain, there is no amount of medicine that's going to work. And
Right.
so when you connect them to their breath, it allows their mind to calm down enough for the medications to start working.
Hmm.
That's what I found. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
But it's the connected piece. It's, you know, the touch on the chest is providing a sensory orientation that, okay, I'm here. I'm here. And then when you make them look in your eyes, you're connecting to another person. And that helps to orient them to where they're at. And it's not just, it's like their frame rate is so fast in that in between state of being anesthetized and conscious.
Mm.
So
It's very, mhm.
yeah, it's very effective.
Yeah. And honestly, should be used more often. It should be used in combination with medication rather than just give the medication, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, I mean, and it's I think it's something that can be taught. I certainly I feel like it's one of the gifts that I bring to my patients for sure.
Well, I would definitely agree. I remember back in the day, I was probably a newer nurse, like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years or something in the ICU. And we had this agency nurse that came, and I don't know if you remember him, but he would lay hands not on the patient, but around the patient. And we just thought he was a goofy hippie nurse. Um, but now, knowing what I know, he was like spot on. Intubated patients who were restless and he would or pain or couldn't, go to sleep. It was night. He was doing energy work is what he was doing. And I remember him breathing with those patients and I thought, you're so goofy. But I mean, he was the nicest guy, like the nicest guy. But he was just very in tune with that dimension. And he was doing it then, just, on his own. But God, now knowing what I know, I mean, it should be widespread. Nurses would have such better nights, if they could get they could get their patients to calm down
Right?
by just doing some energy work behind the scenes, behind the curtain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many patients in an emergency situation, if you were able to keep keep calm and coach them on breathing instead of, you know,
Hmm.
straight for the Haldol or the Versed,
Right.
and, you know, these combative people that, God, they're just suffering and
Yeah.
they're there for help. And we are, I think we get somewhat jaded to all of those experiences, and it's easy to just throw the Haldol or the Versed at these combative people. I mean,
Mhm.
we all know that each situation is unique, and you have to use really good judgment. If somebody's coming in and they're violent, you got to take care of that. But
Mhm.
how many people have we over medicated when we could have done some alternative? But then that would require time and a level of emotional reserve that oftentimes we don't have because we have to chart when we started our IV or when we
Right.
started our IV fluids.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
we've got,
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say is that what a lovely scenario that would be, but there are not enough people. There are not enough time in the current healthcare bedside nursing arena to manage that. It makes me think of like labor and delivery patients. They teach them to breathe.
oh, sure.
They,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's a big thing. But it's you, one nurse and one patient, and you're with that same patient all day. It may be 14 hours, it may be 2 days, and that's doable, but you get 5 and 6 patients. You ain't nobody got time for that.
right.
Nobody got time for that. So you just get meds. And
Yep.
then, that just creates more problems. And so do we know the answer? No, we do not know the answer. But we definitely know that breathing helps and breathing works. And there's tons of videos on YouTube for free to check it out and see what you think. And this actually leads in very nicely to what we were going to talk about today, which is the essence of nursing and kind of our definitions of it, maybe other people's definitions of it, what we think about it, and how maybe it's changed from when we started, or even from like the 1800s, 1900s to what it is currently. The essence of nursing. Lots of things I've looked up, it kind of boils down to the knowledge and the skills that a nurse needs to know technically, but weaves in the thread or rope, really, what it is, of caring
Mhm.
and being empathetic and being compassionate and having that nature, within the person who has the skills. Because we all know those nurses who have the skills and that's just about it. And, you're like, you're actually creating a bigger problem when you go in there and you act like that.
Uh-huh.
So let's just figure this out and do it different. But, you know, most nurses don't go into nursing unless they have, I mean, they really care because, they want to be a nurse. Maybe their mom's a nurse, or, they're, or you're in, or you find yourself in nursing school. And in order to be able to stay in school, you have to have some kind of caring. You have to have that.
Mhm.
You have to feel that. I mean, what do you think about it?
Well, the thing that comes up for me, listening to you talk about that is when I've shared some of my stories with people who are non-medical people, oh, I could never do that. They all say, oh, I
Mhm.
could never do that. And I say, no, I think that you could. I think that you would, because I think that at the core, we all care about each other, even though we have all these crazy biases that separate us. At the end of the day, if you see someone suffering, most people are going to be willing to help. That caring part is just, I definitely think nurses have the muscle of caring is maybe exercised more. But I
Mhm.
think all are bent towards caring for one another. I think that's just part of human nature. But caring is I do think that it is the essence of what it means to be a nurse.
Yeah. Versus another technical job skill, in a different job, another technical job, there doesn't the line of caring and being and the connection between two humans doesn't matter. And so you said that. So yeah, human nature, it's like on the side of the road, or in my case, in an airport, you find somebody who is in need of help, you run to them and you
Uh-huh.
help them. And
Right.
I think everyone does, but where it turns different for nurses is like you said, a muscle. It's an extended period of time. So you might really be carrying those first several hours into your shift, but after dealing with an alcohol withdrawal for 7 hours and you have four more to go, you have to push and you have to continue to care.
Hmm.
You got to stay in it. You can't just drop it and be like, "Whew, that's enough of that."
Yeah.
Um, and that's a big difference between other jobs,
Other jobs.
careers. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I have kind of wrestled with is, you know, part of the thing about nursing is the volume of just bodies that you encounter.
yeah.
And, you know, I think that is one thing that's slightly different about nursing is especially critical care where people are intubated and sedated, it is just a body. It's not just a body, but it's a body that you're caring for. And maybe the interpersonal interactions that you have are with family, which could be horrible or great, either way. But the point being that anybody that's exposed to large volumes of human interaction, there's going to be a lot of overlap in the effects of that.
Hmm.
But when you're caregiving, you know, the fact that they can't speak to you, and we've talked about before, kind of the expanding your ability to intuit or expanding your intuition to receive biological information from our patients and not knowing how to put that back. I think that is a unique thing to caregiving. That is a differentiating piece, and it's life or death. So quite literally, you're dealing in life and death terms, and if you mess up, the pressure of that thought. I don't know that I ever, in the moment, had the thought, if I screw up, somebody's gonna die. I think it's just like an underlying thing that is true. But if you let that into your thought process, you could get overwhelmed with that. So it just doesn't even, you just perform. You just do what you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever. I got the feelings of like people could die, like, and how are we going to prevent that from like during COVID, there'd be like, I don't know, 8 or 9 patients in our unit on the vent, literally circling the drain of death.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as a charge nurse, it's all on you. So I remember going to each one of those nurses and saying, okay, here's the plan. You'll see the heart rate start going down. If their sat drops to this and you see the heart rate, I want you to grab the atropine. Like, that's the
Mhm.
plan. And then if it really does, then we'll get the code cart and you know what to do. You pull that out, you pull that. And I would literally go through that scenario with every nurse and their patient so that if I wasn't right there and that happened, they would know how to start.
Mhm.
Sometimes I
Sure.
remember going to the floor because, some of those patients would have to stay up on the floor till they were literally at the brink of needing to be intubated. And so they were so sick on the floor and being up there saying, okay, if it gets to this, or this, then I want you to call me and then we'll make a plan. And this is the plan. It's always planning for the worst,
Uh-huh.
but, hoping for the best. And that is literally life and death. So you don't really think that in your mind, but maybe I was. And so that was part of the planning, why I was doing the planning.
Mhm. It's interesting as I'm listening to you, I'm kind of thinking about the way that we plan because that plan is emerging it's emerging responsively to the situation, right?
Yeah.
So we're really adept, really skilled at seeing the problems, creating an immediate action plan and implementing that plan. And, I'm thinking about the nurse that like myself, uh, I wasn't able to keep my personal life in order as well as manage the chaos of the hospital. And I'm looking at some of the ways that I made choices, and it's almost like I thrive in that responsive
Mhm.
critical moment. And if I don't have that outside in the past, if I didn't have that outside, if I didn't have that crisis, I didn't get much done. And I wonder how many other nurses experience that because we're
Yeah.
on such high alert that when we're not there, we just have to let it all go. And then we create crises in our personal lives. And you can't have crisis in the hospital and at home. That's
Yeah.
something I
Oh
learned
my
the hard.
God, it's so true. It's so true about you know, you you are always on high alert. And you could say this for other jobs that have high alert, but the one thing that runs through all of that that is the same is what do you do with all of that energy? So if
Mhm.
you think about yourself in those situations that create this high level of being very alert, and you could even think back to, you could say caveman or whatever, but when they were on high alert, there are chemical reactions happening in the body that release different hormones, neurotransmitters, all the things that keep you at this high alert state. And so, back then they would be on high alert. They would either kill the animal or be killed. And then the situation was over until they went back out and hunted again, which may be, weeks or whatever. But when you are back to back to back to back 12-hour shifts running on that high alert, and you don't have any downtime or you don't have any release, even on
Mhm.
your downtime, if you're not consciously releasing that energy and refilling your body with the nutrients, with the love, with the things that you need to come back to a homeostasis in your body, that's when damage happens.
Mhm.
And, I mean, there's so many physical things about our bodies that, oh, I can't lose weight, or, oh, I can't sleep at night, or, oh, I have high blood pressure. Oh, I got to get on an antidepressant. Oh, I got to take thyroid medication because I have, cortisol depletion. Well,
Mhm.
why? We think, oh, well, we're just getting older. Well, no, I mean,
Eh.
actually, no, not really. I mean, for me, at least, a lot of that was directly related to overdoing it, doing my job, but yet not doing my job in between my job, which was taking care of me. And, it- you know, but I didn't know. I
Mhm.
didn't know that I needed to do that. I thought, a day off's a day off. A day off's not a day at the hospital.
Mhm.
So that's good. If you're not at work, you're not at work. But and then you wonder, like, why do I fight with my husband so much? Or why am I so irritated at my kids? Or why do I feel like I want to drink from the minute I wake up on my day off? Like, what is going on? And it I don't know. It just never dawned on me that it would be my job. And, I think that's again why we're doing this and why we're talking about it, is bringing more awareness to the fact of what actually is really going on during some of those shifts and during the time that you are at work in doing a nurse's job.
Mhm.
It's you have to be able to take care of your body. It's like getting in a car and it doesn't have any gas or oil and it has all four bad tires that are low in air and dry rot, and expect that car to run well all the way to St. Louis. That's not going to happen.
One of the quotes that I was thinking about as you were talking about, why am I fighting with you said, why am I fighting with my husband? Why am I making these choices that I'm making that are hurting me? I'm also thinking about my own self and the foolish ways that I chose to self-medicate, which were
Hmm.
maladaptive forms of self-care. But all of those things, all of those choices, I wouldn't be who I am today without making those choices. And so there's a quote, I believe it was classical writer Proust from France, and I haven't actually read this author, but one of my favorite people quotes him, and the saying is, "If I were to deny the fool that I was in my youth, it would be to deny the man that I've become."
Hmm.
And love that quote. Um,
Yeah.
because without going through all of those experiences that we had to go through, we wouldn't be here doing this work that we're doing, which I believe will help people to navigate their careers, specifically the young nurses that are just starting out on this journey, that will hear this and make better life choices that are
Hmm.
caring for themselves instead of just giving their care to other people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and
And
that quote, it's like that that just reminds us to not shame the decisions we made when we made them, because that's all we could do. That's all we knew. That's all we had the capacity to do. And so we love ourselves so much now that you can't not love who that was,
Mhm.
but putting the information out there so that, or, just making it available on another platform for, whoever may come across it, is just allowing them to maybe come to that conclusion sooner and not have to have so much suffering. I mean, I think there's nurses out there who still don't realize, what, they may be nurses for 10 years or 12 years, and they don't realize the consequences of ignoring all of the signs, related to burnout, really. I mean,
Mhm.
what will then come to burnout? And they haven't been able to put the pieces together to be like, oh wow, this something's, I got to do something different. They're like, you know they're always looking for another job, they're looking for another thing, or they're always looking. And what it really is actually going inside to take care of you and who you are. And you don't really know that until you recognize, that in maybe another person's story. And, I think that's why stories are so important. And, another reason why we're doing this podcast, really.
Yeah. Well, it kind of it makes me think about uh, ICU psychosis, and using that term not just for patients that are experiencing ICU psychosis, because ICU psychosis, what happens for these people is they're generally drugged, intubated, sedated, and or they're just in the hospital in that environment with the beeping and the lights and people coming in and out all the time. They lose orientation to reality. The sun, without seeing the sun rise and set each day, and having those structures that inform, the human experience, they lose their minds.
Mhm.
And I think a lot, when I think about the things that we experience, wiping butt, or you know putting somebody's guts back in their belly, these are not
Hmm.
normal things that we're experiencing. But you know, they're shared experiences that nurses have amongst themselves, but they can be disorienting when, because, I think I've said it before, you see the geometries of your patients, right? The anatomical features that they just have are geometric. So that's why I always say I've seen every form of geometry that the human body could possibly manifest.
Hmm.
And having such familiarity with the human anatomy, and the overexposure, I think, is the overexposure to human anatomy, biology, the ways that it can fail, lead to a disorientation of of the mind for some nurses, not everyone.
Mhm.
But I think that that's part of why nurses are taking their own lives, is that they the experiences that they're having are so different from the people outside of the hospital that they no longer can relate to those people. There's very little common ground. The ignorance that most people are walking around with is in terms of, the risks that they're taking with their lives. And for nurses, I have a perfect story. I had a young child die in my hands in the emergency room early in my career. And that experience, because I knew the story behind the death, and it touched me so deeply, my relationship with my nephews and niece was changed by that experience. That I couldn't watch my sister just let her kids run around free, because the potential, like every time I was there, it was just like my breath was being taken away from me because they were too free. it was
Yeah.
it was painful for me, and
Yeah.
it still is. When I see children in that 2 to 4 range, my anxiety level skyrockets.
Mm.
That age group stresses me out so bad. And I know that it's because of that little baby that died in my hands. I know that looking back. I didn't know that then. I
Yeah.
wasn't able to process that. And so I think those things, when I play with the idea of ICU psychosis in relationship to nurses and how the psychology of nurses changes through their career, that I think touches pretty close to the heart of it.
Yeah. And I think that you know, understanding awareness is key, and then doing what you need to try and understand it can take some time. But, in order to care for your patients, you have to care for yourself. And that doesn't just mean put the oxygen mask on yourself first. I mean, it goes way deeper. And so sometimes, because I used to think, oh, people be like, I think you're going over the limit, Julie. I think you're doing too much for them and you're doing the, and it's like, it's part of my nature to do that. And, I thought, okay, well, I'm doing what I can, doing what I need. But I mean, it wasn't enough. It didn't even really even touch the surface.
Mhm.
And, you know, sometimes you think, oh my God, adding in another thing, like more things, it starts to replace not what you're currently doing, but it's such like the breathing exercises and meditation and really getting within yourself and knowing and allowing for grounding and allowing for energy release and allowing for processing and journaling and debriefing and all of those things become the only things that work for real. And so it's much more um it goes to a deeper level, and so that you have lasting outcomes. It's not just fleeting, like oh, I'm gonna go home and drink a bottle of wine and then go to bed. That'll really take the edge off. Well, it will, but it
Edge back
it
on too.
doesn't do anything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not doing anything for you. And I think it just pushes people closer and closer and closer to burnout, where they're like, I don't even want to ever see another patient in my life.
Mhm.
And that's scary and sad, because the more nurses that go that route and just let their career end, or I've got to do something else, or I got to get out of the hospital, I got to do that, you know it just lessens and lessens and lessens the quality of the people who are actually taking care of the patients. I mean, there's not that many nursing schools out there, and there's not
Mhm.
that many nurses that graduate every year. Not as many as what's needed, not as many as what, is needed to take care of the how many actual patients there are doesn't equal.
Right.
And so, I was looking at this definition again that we were talking about. This is the definition of the essence of nursing from Jones and Bartlett Learning. They emphasize that the essence of nursing involves a combination of knowledge and caring. And this definition highlights the integration of scientific knowledge and compassionate care, ensuring that nursing practice is both evidence-based and patient-centered. This approach aims to provide holistic care that addresses the physical, emotional, and psychological needs of a patient. And so that's a huge job. That's a huge role. I mean, that's a huge ask.
Yeah.
From one person, one human who maybe doesn't even have their own life together. That's a lot, you know? It's not, and
maybe
these little
you
nurses,
can only do that or have your life together.
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's huge.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe they told us that in nursing school. They're like, well, you're going to be taking care of the whole, they always talk about holistic stuff, like, the mind, body, and soul and all that. But, if you really think about it, are we really doing that at the hospital? Because I kind of don't think so.
Mhm.
There's just not enough time. And so you can't do it. And so you just get these like stragglers, like straggling messes that you've almost created in trying to take care of your patient, all of your patients, so you have to just do the most important things for them, that you can, because you never know when you're going to be able to come back in the room.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't really feel holistic at all. Our minds, don't you think your mind wants to take it there? Like, think about when you go in and like you've been off for say like 5 days, and you go back and you're starting, it's your first of 3 12s. And you're like, this is awesome. I've totally meal prepped. I've packed my lunch. Like I got a new lunch box. I have new pens, and I clean my stethoscope, and I feel great. And you go and you're like, I am going to give the best care I can to my pay. I am going to just 100% it, even though we all are like 100% it all the time. But,
You're selling me.
you know,
I'm buying whatever you're
you
selling.
know that feeling. You know that shift. You're driving in. You got the best music on. You park. You don't have to walk very far. Like, and oh God, to top it off, the best crew. The nurses you're working with that night are like, this is amazing. This is fun. I love this so much. Like I'm right back there. And so you have that attitude. And so you go in and oh my God, your assessment, you know how you do your initial first assessment in the ICU. I mean, it's thorough, and you're looking in between their toes, and you take all the blankets off and you roll them around, and you're like, all right, every 2 hours I'm gonna be in here. And I got a plan, and I got your meds, I got them all written out. Like that's such an awesome feeling. And just as great as that is, it can go to shit in a split second. You know, you have
I,
either
I,
your
I was,
pod
I was,
partners.
I was picturing, this person walking into the hospital, and then right next to it is the person walking out of the hospital with flames coming out of the hospital.
Totally. Totally.
Just
And
a
it's the same
dumpster fire.
patients. Yeah,
Yeah.
same unit, same patients. You have the night nurse fresh coming on, and the day
Golly.
nurse leaving with her hair on fire.
Oh my
It
gosh.
it's and to be asked to do the holistic care of the patient and all of their needs, and the family and all of their needs, and the other nurses that you're working as a team together, and their patients and their needs, and the needs of if you're the charge nurse, the needs of all the nurses in the unit. And I mean, it's an extraordinary feat to even get through one shift, honestly.
Yeah.
And applause to all nurses, because it is hard work. And I found, it's graduation season's kind of gone, and my one graduated college, and so they're that age. And so some of her other friends, there was a couple went to nursing school, and they were graduating, and it just it's all I have to like take the jade out of my heart and set it on the desk
Yeah.
because I don't want to be that that old crotchety nurse going in saying, "Oh God, girl, you really chose a great
Yeah,
career
oh, I
to go
know. I
in."
know. Goodness gracious.
Oh God, love
Oh my
them.
gosh.
But also you can see, from the side that's like, I've been there, I've done that. I am old. I've done that for a long time. And thank God there are new baby nurses who can come in and keep this going. You know, it's
Yeah,
amazing. It's really amazing.
it is. And they look
So I don't know.
so young. They look like little
They
baby
are so
children.
young. Yes. Because how old were you
I mean, I
because you
was
had been
like,
in the military first. So how old were
yeah, I
you?
was like, I think I was 28.
Yeah.
Really old
Yeah.
for,
I was older too. I think I was, let's see. I was probably 24, 25 maybe.
yeah.
By the time, yeah. By the time I got through nursing school, because I went another route first, and then I took some time off because I moved, but then I just picked my prerequisites and went to nursing school. Yeah, some of those baby nurses, you're like, oh my God, are you 21? Oh, but God love them. I mean, they are so eager to learn, and their brains are so fresh. Oh God, to have that over again, but not really.
Yeah, I
I don't know
wouldn't
if I'd
do
want.
that. It's like you can't really, I mean, it makes the older nurses that we were brought up by make
Mhm.
more sense because
Oh
they
God.
were, you know,
Yes.
uh, there's
We're
less,
them now.
we're
You're
well,
exactly right. You're exactly right.
yeah, it's like they just make so much more sense because they're like even by being mean, like in some sense by being aggressively certain that their path was correct and
Yes.
whatever I was doing was wrong.
Hmm.
The aggression that they brought to that to save me from making a mistake or whatever, or just teaching me how to do it properly, like they could have been way worse.
Yeah.
Like they did care and they made me so much better
Yeah.
than I ever would have been without them. So I'm
Oh
very,
God, yeah.
very
I
grateful
do
for
feel,
those.
yes, very grateful. And I know you and I were at the same hospital at the beginning of my career was I began there, and then you also then began there. And some of those, I mean, I am so grateful for some of those seasoned nurses that I was around and that, took me in and led me and guided me in my learning and, were rough with me sometimes.
Mhm.
And that's kind of part of it. I think it's part of any kind of learning curve. It's like it's going to be rough and you might get your feelings hurt. But I mean, if it wouldn't have been that way, I wouldn't be the nurse I
Yeah, yeah.
am. Uh, You know, it's just another layer of nursing, honestly, teaching other nurses because that's a huge part of every year clinical students come in every single year.
Mhm.
And, especially when you get older and older nursing and more into your career, you're the ones that you get the nursing student.
Mhm.
The new nurses don't get the nursing student. You get the
Right.
nursing student. And so some nurses get them, every semester.
I
And
love having
and
students.
I also love having students, and I was a preceptor for probably maybe 2 years, but solid, like one right after another. And I remember going to the manager and being like, raising my hand, like, can I have a break? Like, I just want to come in and just float through and just do my thing. Can I? And so I did get a break, but a huge part of nursing beyond taking care of patients and families is teaching new nurses,
I mean, I
whether
think
they're new
you're taking care of
employees
people
or
that you don't
students.
even know.
Yeah.
When you're, yeah,
Yeah.
you're taking care of people you don't even know when you're training a new nurse. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't really even know that nurse. You don't know, well, you don't know the student, you don't know them. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no, it's just a weird like rapport and like, do we get each other or is this jiving or is she
Uh-huh.
understanding or, you know, um, it's a lot of weight. It is a lot of weight. I never really thought about that, but that also goes into the essence because it's like you are taught from th- within the environment. You get your book knowledge from nursing school and you get your maybe essential skills, you know, how to do a bed change, maybe not really how to start an IV, how to put a shirt on a bedridden patient. I don't know, still silly things like that. But really, you learn once you're in the career, once you're
Mhm.
in the unit or wherever you land, that those are the people that are teaching you. It's like that you grow your own. That's so strange.
Mhm.
Is that
Mhm.
that way in any other career?
I think it, I think it
Yeah, I
probably
guess a little
is.
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, nursing has unique elements to it. I mean, it is, I don't know. I always tell my patients, when I'm messing with their gown that I went to school for 4 years to learn the schematics of a hospital gown.
Yeah, it's very true. Those
This is
goddamn
what I went to school
snaps.
for, right here, right here.
Yeah. Yeah. When we're getting beds ready in the surgery department, we literally have to make sure that those sleeves are snapped. Or when you give the gown to the patient, it'll be on some kind of all
Oh, yeah,
different
yeah,
odd
yeah,
ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, part of nursing, part of a job is learning to snap those goddamn gowns. Oh, oh
Oh,
God, it's so
man.
funny. That's so funny. It does feel very good to talk about all this. And, I hope people listening can then maybe be reminded of their stories and of their first day and of their, what do you think about caring? What is your own essence of nursing? Because sometimes you can get so bogged down by how much work it is and that we tend to forget really, why we're actually doing it and why we like it. I know I was there a lot, but never left because that's what I knew. And I didn't really feel like I didn't have the energy to do anything new. So I just
Mm.
wanted to keep doing what I was doing because I had been doing it for so long and it was just what I knew and it's easy.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I mean, it's good money. It's, you know what you're getting, you know what you're doing. When you know what you're doing, it makes it easy to come back. But
yeah.
I'm kind of at that place where I feel like in some ways I've given more to my career than I should have. In other
Hmm.
ways, maybe I haven't. The part of it that broke me is is the part that I gave too much of myself to it, that I didn't
Hmm.
know. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, not knowing how to make the separation from the experiences that you're having and making them make sense in the rest of your life. And, you know, that all comes with just experience, but I'm at a place where, what we're doing here is we're stepping out of that comfort zone and trying to do something different and take care of people in a different way than what we are used to. And even though it's a little scary and we don't really know what we're doing, and just for a little backdrop on
Hmm.
that statement, we've recorded this episode, what, 3 times now? This is
Yeah.
the third or the fourth
Yeah.
time, because
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah.
know really what we're
Yeah.
doing.
I mean,
Speaking.
we're literally doing something new and we're just not winging it. I mean,
No,
we
no.
have guidance, but it's still just like we don't know. And so but there's so much growth I have come to realize, which I didn't because I was a creature of habit and I mean, that's why I stayed at the hospital for, 26 years. But there's so much growth and joy and happiness when you do something that you are uncomfortable doing, but you learn to do it and then show yourself that you can do it. The
Mhm.
the reward is so huge, and it's it's an inner feeling that you get from doing something new. And I didn't let myself go there for a very, very long time. And I mean, we're both healers. I think
Mhm.
coming to know, with all that we've gone through, coming to know who each, you, I know me, and I think we both can agree that we are healers. So not only are we caregivers, we're caring, we have nursing knowledge, but you know, we are here to heal ourselves, to heal other people, to heal our patients. And I think that's just another outlet of our healing. It's hard to take it to this level with a bedside nursing job. I'm sure there are other nursing jobs out there that are a little bit slower paced, and you might be able to incorporate some of this. But for us to be able to gain the satisfaction of, well, for me, I'll just say live my purpose. I can't just not do anything. I have found that I have to continually heal, whether it's people at my work or people I meet, or myself, for sure. And I think this is another way that we are helping to heal people.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of thinking
Which
back
I think,
to,
yeah. Go ahead.
I was just thinking back to kind of talking through the kind of responsive element of nursing, the planning around critical situations, and the element of caring, the element of technical knowledge, and the prioritization that
Hmm.
is required of the ability to prioritize tasks, and even bed movement as a coordinator.
Hmm.
You know, the dynamism that is happening in those situations, and how, I'm just trying to, I'm thinking back to that conversation we were having earlier. How do we dig down to the essence of nursing in that realm? Because
Hmm.
when prioritizing requires you to deny something. When you're
Hmm.
prioritizing that this is the most important thing that has to happen, everything else is going to be denied. And that means someone's going to go, either someone's going to go without some form of care, or there's a hierarchy of needs that emerges in that process of prioritization. And the unique skill of the nurse, I think, is that dance of assimilating all of the knowledge that they have, and it in those moments that are critical, being able to pull forward all of that knowledge and make a good clinical decision. It's such a dynamic thing. I don't know. I just feel like we could explore that idea. What did that
Oh,
bring
we
up?
could. Yeah, I mean, it's so huge because it goes. I think that's for me. I know that was part of burnout was, and I didn't know it in the time, but looking back, it was the things that I couldn't do, the things that I know I should have been doing, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't
Mhm.
do it. Either I didn't have the supplies to do it, I didn't have the time to do it, I didn't have the other nurses to do it. More time. And for me, because my end to things as they were happened with COVID, and it shined a very, very bright light on the things that could not be done. A heavy, heavy prioritization on triage and life-sustaining measures, honestly. And I know, it didn't happen a lot at our hospital where we didn't have enough ventilators, but I know it happened a lot. And I know there were people who died because they did not have the equipment and the decision was made out of prioritization, and you fell in some kind of, grid, and either you met the criteria or you didn't.
Mhm.
And if someone was sicker, they got it and you didn't, and that was
Mhm.
just it. And I know that in our area there were hospitals who did the ECMO, um, and if you got to one of those hospitals, lucky for you. If you didn't,
Mhm.
unlucky for you,
Right.
because there was no movement. That it wasn't an option. And the way that I felt as far as prioritizing care, I feel like that was part of what started to break down my soul, or absolutely broke it down, because it was probably already broke down, but it ended it. I mean, it was,
Well, what you're describing is there's a term for it that I learned when I went through Warriors Ascent. It's called moral injury. When
moral injury.
when you're unable to when you know what needs to be done and you're unable to do it for whatever reason, that's a moral injury. When you have family member that's asking a question and you speak I call it a dark truth, like something
Yeah.
that isn't, it's 100% true, but there's maybe some context that's missing, or we have a sense of obligation to the institution that we work for, and so you don't necessarily share all of the information that you possess. That's a moral injury. We aren't trained on the ethics of that. And I think the unknowing for me, like knowing, for instance, a situation where that we were both involved in, where a patient was essentially abandoned
Hmm.
by the physician, and we had done everything to save this individual's life, and it didn't work. And I think I had to tell the family that we had done everything that we could, which was true. The nursing staff did everything possible to save that life, but there was more that the physician could have done. Um, at least that's our shared opinion.
Yeah.
But that's a big moral injury. You know,
Mm.
I remember, I won't say her name, but one of the nurses that we worked with, and you may remember this, but the patient had extubated themselves in the middle of the night, and the nurse had left the bedside, and the spouse untied the restraint, and I was
Mm.
across the way, and I saw the hand come up, and I was like, oh shit.
Hmm.
I bolted. I ran as fast as I could to that bedside, and I was like 2 steps away. The spouse was kind of fighting the hand from getting to the tube, and I was so close to stopping this patient from harming themselves, and was not able to do it. I was just 1 or 2 steps away. And then to watch the course that individual had to go through after the fact, and like there was nothing I could do. But if I could have done just a little bit more, I could have
Hmm.
stopped it. Like that's a moral injury. I feel like I
Yeah.
I suffered psychologically because it wasn't just that moment. It was weeks and weeks of watching this individual. And we're put in those situations, and as any caregiver, firefighter, police, anybody that's interacting in critical situations is exposed to moral injuries. Nurses are
Just
suffering
one of them. Yeah.
injuries.
Well, that's definitely what it felt, because it did feel like an injury. It felt, not good. And I didn't know how to label it. and I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I guess you're kind of numb really then to it, is how maybe I could describe how I was. I knew it's like what needs to happen and what should have happened and it didn't. And and you're just left with like, huh, well, it's just hard to even put into words how that
Yeah.
feels. But nurses aren't taught what do you do with that when that happens?
Mhm.
How do you explain, how do you get your mind right with it? You know? And I don't know. I don't know in the situation. I guess if I had to go back, is it I probably could recognize that. I could recognize that that's what it was and that's what was going on. I could then know that that is something that I need to process, whether it's through meditation and release, through journaling and processing and release, whatever way you would choose to kind of release that energy from that situation in your body. I've learned that, how animals, after they do like a prey drive or like a hard run after something or running from a predator,
Mhm.
they they shake their body. Um,
Mm.
and that is a release.
Mm.
It's an energetic release that they naturally do. To the energy buildup from all the chemical reactions that are happening in their body while being chased, which can, I mean, we can simulate that in a ton of situations as far as, being in a critical care situation.
Mhm.
Um, all of that has to be released. So I guess I would have done, which I'm kind of doing now, some somatic release work. But it's best if you can catch it right then and either
Sure.
do it before you go to bed, knowing that you dealt with that, you've recognized it, you know what it is, you can label it, and you know that you have to release that. And then it wouldn't store because I think the damage is done from all the everything that's stored in our bodies.
Absolutely.
So that's interesting. That we could do a whole podcast on that.
No, I mean, I'm thinking, I'm thinking, we're nurses, we make protocols. You know,
Yeah.
making a standardized protocol for how to process critical situations, like there's a routine for post-mortem care, and that's for the patient. What about the nurse?
Right.
Why can't we, I mean, we, I mean, I just don't think that it's an option to continue going as it's going without addressing these issues. We aren't going to have
Yeah.
caregivers to provide care if we don't start taking care of the caregivers we have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So creating some form of self-care protocol, or even, you know, one of the things that your animal idea triggered for me was the thought that so many times, because I'm coming off of my shift and I'm so overwhelmed with the experiences that I've had, that I just want to go home. I want to, drink,
Yeah.
or,
Hmm.
in the past, call, my girlfriend or whatever. And
Hmm.
so there was, the escapes were sex,
Yeah.
alcohol, going to bars, doing
Hmm.
maladaptive behaviors, or the other one, just going home and vegging out and doing absolutely
Totally.
nothing for days. With
Days. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Well,
I
it's
think
a it's a
that,
form of it's disassociation, you
uh
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
just you're just letting everything fall. And that's quite quite literally the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah.
That instead of not instead of just letting all of your energy fall, that we should be challenging ourselves to stress ourselves in a positive way, because we've just been stressed in a very negative way. We need we need the opposite. We need a positive stress. I think that's part of why people choose Sports is an escape. I
Yeah.
certainly did early in my career. Was, I mean, arguably addicted to working out.
Yeah.
Couldn't function without it. And I certainly think that that's it's not an unhealthy thing, but there,
But it can become addictive, just like you said. I mean, it can
yeah,
become maladaptive, if however it is, if it's an escape, if you're, and it's the intention with what you're using it. So, of course, we're not saying that exercise is bad. Of course, we're not saying that sex is bad. Of course, we're not saying that having an alcoholic drink is bad. It's the intention with which you're using it.
sure.
And so, or vegging out and watching Netflix, watching a whole series on Netflix. If your intention is like, this is awesome and I've been waiting for this to come out and this is what I'm doing this weekend, great. But if it is to disassociate from being you, then it's damaging
Mhm.
and can be damaging. And it's escape. It becomes escape. So it's almost like you have to ask yourself, am I escaping, or is my intention to, I'm working out for my health. I know I need to do it, get my cholesterol down, and or whatever, but it's in the asking and the um kind of researching it in your own brain, because everybody's going to be different and everybody's thing is different. And but if you look deep enough, you will know, are you escaping, or are you literally just watching some Netflix? People
Yeah.
know. Yeah. But sometimes they don't even know to ask the question because they're literally on autopilot. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's the way I was for a long, long time. Like it becomes, you don't question because your disassociation is the automatic default for your behavior.
So I am just finishing up a book called it's just the writings of Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher. And one of the things that I think he quotes, um, maybe it's Plato. I can't remember who he's quoting, but he says essentially he says even the great Stoics would say that the unexamined life is essentially not even a human. That
Yeah.
you haven't really taken account of your life. You're not human yet. And so what, like when I hear you say um, autopilot, that when I look back on the ways that I autopiloted, where it just was so routine and I didn't know how to look inward.
Yeah.
And I think that that goes back to the quote of Proust, to deny the fool that I was in my youth would be to deny the man that I am today. That if I didn't differentiate within myself at some point, I had to go through some really hard stuff to get to the point where I was able or get to the point where I had no choice but to look inward. There's no way I've become who I am today.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just part of becoming human.
Well, it is. It is. I mean, I think, being human, but then it's becoming you. You're coming into yourself and really learning and having the desire to understand, who are you and who are you on the inside, and what do you mean? What is meaning for you? On autopilot, that none of those thoughts ever came into my mind. I just got up, did the same thing every day, every day, every day, every day, and then I asked myself, why am I so fucking miserable? You know?
Well, it's kind of the idea of the difference between a human being and
Mm.
being human.
Oh, yes. A human being and being human. Oh, it's totally different, because being
You're just on
is,
autopilot.
yeah. Well, yeah. You can't. you just don't know. So maybe this hopefully will bring some awareness to some people because, you don't know till you know. I didn't know
Mhm.
till I knew. You didn't know till you knew,
Right.
and even just getting people to kind of just start thinking about it. Like, are you on autopilot or are you really living? Are you living? You know?
And then, I mean, that makes me think of where healthcare is inevitably going, which is AI. Already
Mm.
artificial intelligence is able to diagnose radiological images better than humans.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, that's been a couple of years, I think, that has been true. And radiologists will likely be the first to be replaced for that reason, because it's based on an image and the AI can analyze it. I don't know how AI replaces what we do.
Well, it definitely cannot replace the essence of a nurse.
Oh, no.
It can replace the technical skills. It can replace, the robots and the maybe putting an IV in, finding the vein, intubating, medication giving, all of that kind of stuff. But the essence of nursing, the real caring human connection that we have, I don't know if that can ever, I feel like it can never be replaced by AI for sure. And so
Um,
that's why we gotta heal these
well,
nurses. We
so
gotta,
there, so there's you know, that kind of brings up a thought that about AI, that there will be a personal AI, and that one of the I've listened to lots of people uh
uh-huh.
talk about it. I just to help me formulate my own thoughts, because my initial thoughts are this is a huge mistake for humanity. This is we
Mm.
should mess with things we shouldn't be messing with. And one of the things that I've heard about it is that it's going to change human relationships dramatically, in that uh, you know pornography is going to change. It's uh, your men and women will have access to personal AI that knows them and knows what they like better than any human could know, and
Mm.
be able to assimilate that into a customized experience for them. And so in that sense, connecting that idea to the essence of nursing, which is caring, if the AI is able to recognize our emotional responses and can manipulate those our emotional responses, then it can't replace the authentic human experience, but it can replicate it at a very in a very real way. And that's scary. That
That
feels
is.
really uncomfortable for me. I don't like that at all. Uh,
Well, I never thought about it that way, but I mean, it really could. I mean, it would be very different, but, you know,
on the positive side, I mean, the suffering and so on the positive side, if you're going to make the positive argument for AI in healthcare, like it would relieve or alleviate a lot of the trauma that we're talking about. A lot of the things that broke
hmm,
us could be alleviated. But then for me, I mean, the fundamental existential question that AI is raising is, what does it even mean to be human?
right.
And we're not, my very hard opinion on that question is that we're going way too fast, and that if we don't push pause on that, we're making a big mistake.
Right. I mean, I think, I tend to not watch a lot of news or, read a lot of that stuff, but it just feels if we can continue to be just our loving, compassionate, authentic person that we are, that's our job. That's our job here. And, whatever else happens will fall as it may. Because otherwise, I think it could be
It
too
get
scary.
overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think, no,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, that's kind of where I've fallen in all of the drama of our modern time, is that the real challenge that we have is to elevate consciousness. With all the hate, all the, violence. I mean, nursing is such a violent job. It's so, like, you just wouldn't think of it. I never ever would have thought that nursing would be as violent as it has proven to be in my career, or our careers. And elevating our consciousness, and, for me, choosing to see things positively has changed everything for me in how I view myself and how I view others. And it's a practice. It's not like you just decide that you're going to see things positively. It's something that you
Yeah.
have to cultivate and build and create for yourself. And your life really changes when you do that. It's incredible,
Yeah.
truly.
It really is. Yeah.
So with all the misinformation that's out there and all the voices, so many voices. I mean, I don't know. That's one of the things I think about with what we're doing. Like, there's already so many
Mhm.
voices. Like, how could what we have to say mean anything or make any impact? And I guess I've alleviated myself from having those thoughts by saying that that's not up to me. The impact that it's going to have will just be. It's
Yeah.
I have very little ability to influence the impact that I have beyond just sharing our experiences,
Yeah. No, I,
insights.
I, I fully agree. I fully agree because I know the people that I have found that have helped me, and I feel like there's infinite space. And the people who are meant to find, just like we found the people that were meant to help us.
Hmm.
So where we found help, which for you and I was both completely different,
Hmm.
but you know, we can be that for others. And so it's it's attraction. It's like it's law of attraction. It's an energetic connection, and who it's meant to find, it will find. But I think we're doing our job of hearing the calling, doing the inspirational work, the inspired action to put it out there so that who needs to find it will find it. And that gives me peace, whether it's one person, five people, or a million people. Whoever it helped, even if it helps, again, two, five, doesn't matter. And it also is very therapeutic for us because we're doing our purpose. We're living in our purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
Keep the dialogue going by connecting with us on social media posted in the links below, or by visiting our website, www.nursingyoupod.org.
Together, let's continue to redefine nursing and shape a brighter future for those we care for. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep nurturing those connections.
And don't forget to be kind to yourself.